I'm over here editing the video that is about to get posted, or obviously you're watching it right now, and I realized that I forgot to record an intro for it because it's a repurposed Instagram live that I thought really should be shared on my YouTube channel as well for everybody that doesn't follow me on Instagram. But I also wanted to make sure that you know my female wealth embodiment program one-on-one mentorship is now enrolling. The enrollment ends on April 10th. Well, ends with the limited time bonuses that I'm offering, because I like to give fast actors, people that actually want to change and actually want to embody their wealth, their divine feminine energy, all of that good shit. So that is actually enrolling right now. So I'm going to leave the link in the description box below. Is going to be the first link that you see. So other than that, let's get into this video talking all about oppressive energies, internalized racism, and why that's preventing you from getting what you want. I don't want to say from the shackles, but freeing Black women specifically, minority women specifically, from the shackles of thinking that you don't have a choice and you have no power and control in your life. And the first thing that really comes from is an oppressive mindset, the oppressive energies that we've been consuming and absorbing for generations. Like, I just learned this in my current course, that your DNA is embedded with 13 generations of past DNA. So you're basically just recycled DNA from a different soul. So you're experiencing things from generational trauma, experiencing things that you've experienced in this lifetime, experiencing things from a past life, all at one time, right now, in the present moment. So of course there's suppressive energies. Of course there's an oppression mindset. Of course there's internalized racism going on within minority communities. If you keep experiencing racism, you're going to try to keep doing something because the mind is programmed to get away from pain and seek pleasure. But it's more likely going to do things that get them away from and avoid pain. Why? Because you just don't like being in pain. Do you enjoy being in pain? That's why it's so hard for many people to get into workout regimens, because it starts off painful and you just don't like being in pain. That's where internalized racism comes from. It's not coming from you think that there's like you're racist or something like that. Like, no. It comes from the fact that we are seeking less pain. We're seeking to get away from the pain by conforming to what we think we're supposed to be, because we keep experiencing a world and a reality that's saying there's something wrong with being different. We're living in a reality that says there was something wrong with being unique, with being other, with having different cultures, looking different, having variety, diversity. And we're living in a society and a reality where that's just not the common consciousness. That's just not the norm, so to say, for everybody to be accepted, not even tolerated, accepted. That's like, we live in a very weird time where it's just hard for people to accept the differences in one another. And it's just like so naive to believe that everybody is going to have the same perspective, the same look, the same body shape, the same ideas, the same mindset, because how fucking boring would that be if we did? So these past few days, we've been talking about awakening, the 5 days of awakening. And what I'm talking about awakening, not spiritual awakening, not religious awakening, not coming out of your body, but awakening to choice. Awakening to the fact that you have a choice. And this is from my own personal experience of feeling like I have to prove myself, feeling this internal struggle of being less than, but knowing that I'm not, but trying to value myself, but still having the idea that I'm less than valuable. Always having this idea that I'm not good enough, stuck in this comparison paralysis, this competition mindset that if somebody else has it, or if somebody else is doing it, or if somebody else feels this way or is confident, then there's less for me for some reason. And that goes back to, I can only speak on Black minority experiences because I am Black. But that even goes back to the Willie Lynch letter, where they purposely played with our mindsets to get us to do what they wanted us to do. They purposely put Black people in competition with each other. Young versus old, women versus men, light skin versus dark skin. And that's still very prevalent in the way that society is run today. At least in America. I don't live nowhere else, so I can't speak on anywhere else. But at least in North America, that's how it has gone. That's how it was raised. Colorism in the media, colorism in representation, not having representation at all. So you grow up thinking that something is wrong with you, something is different, that you're not the beauty standard. Let's talk about social media now. I'm going to keep holding these because they're helping me really ground my energy, because I don't want to go off on a long tangent. I don't want to this is a very triggering topic, and it's triggering because it's different than our natural belief system. It's triggering because it's different than what we know. It's different than how society perpetrates how things should be run, what things are normalized.
Right, so, and I know
a lot of feeling is like feeling trapped. Like these past March, like last March, when everything was going on, COVID was first breaking out, the disparities in health throughout COVID, people losing their jobs, all of this stuff. And people were really frustrated, feeling trapped. What's going on right now with the Asian community, feeling trapped because you have no control over the outside forces. You have no control over external reality. So when you feel like you have no control over external reality, you feel like you have no control anywhere. You feel like you have no control in your internal reality either. That's just how your ego works. It's like, what the fuck is going on? When it feels out of control, when it feels chaotic, it's going to try to cling to something familiar, cling to some beliefs that have been decided in my younger days, beliefs that have been decided in past lives, in past generational patterns, and the beliefs that keep getting passed on. Like, I don't know if this applies to you, but imagine how many times you have heard that your number one way to success is by working hard. It's by going to college. It's by getting a high-paying blue-collar job. Is it blue-collar, white-collar? High-paying jobs, corporate jobs, 9-to-5s, lawyers, doctors. Very just blah, vanilla careers. And that was the only thing. School, job. That's the path to success. That's the only way you can get successful, is by following this one way, this one tradition, this one path to success, to one person's definition of a success, the American dream, right? So when you steer off that path isn't really resonating with you. These jobs are not really resonating with you. I was going to college for no fucking reason because I did not know the career I wanted to go after, because none of them resonated with me. That path of success, that path of career, that path of living did not resonate with me at all. So I thought something was wrong with me. I started to think something was wrong with me. I started to think that I was just confused, that I really just had no purpose. I had no idea what I should be doing, that I had no point in being here, that nothing I was going to do was be good enough. Like, this person is already doing it, so how am I going to possibly do it? How am I unique enough to go about and do this? How can I make my own success and not have to struggle, not have to be stuck in survival mode? But then we have a belief that that's just the way it is. You have to work hard, super productivity. But where does that really get us? Realistically, working hard. I was working hard at my quote unquote 9-to-5. I really had like a 7-to-4. But I was working hard then, and I was not successful by societal means or my own standards. That wasn't successful for me. My mindset, I wasn't happy. I was emotionally drained. I was overwhelmed. I was dealing with microaggressions all the time. So then I was trying to prove myself at work to make sure that they knew I was worthy, so that I would be able to climb the ladder, or to be able to just stay there and not have to worry about going to the next job to have to start over and over again. I was watching what I was saying, making sure that I wasn't being too black, to not off-put anybody, not offend any customers, not offend any of my coworkers, not offend my boss and make them uncomfortable, because I want to keep my job, because I don't want to have to struggle. I don't want to have to live in a violent neighborhood. I want to be able to get groceries. I don't want to have to live week to week. But I thought that that was normal. I thought that that's what people do. I thought that's what people have. I thought people knew that this was happening. I thought that they knew that this was systematic. I thought that this was normal. But then I realized the only thing that is normal is what the people in power have normalized. The only reason things are normal is because the people in power have normalized them. Not because it's just naturally normal and from the beginning of time things were like this, because it wasn't. Slavery wasn't always a thing. Inequality wasn't always a thing. People judging people, that's pretty much always been a thing, because Jesus, let's talk about it. People were very judgmental of him, but now they follow him like, obviously, Bible. I'm not even going to get into the religion talk of the oppressive mindset, but thinking that if you conform to this way, even changing the way that our names are presented, like losing that heritage of having authentic names to your culture is frowned upon because it's not a standard name. It's not a name that is rewarded in the success or adult world. Jobs overlook oftentimes black names. I don't know if you've watched Blackish, but there was this one great episode of Blackish where Andre wanted to name his child a black name, so to say, and Bo put up a resume of the black name and the standard name, the white name, the whatever, and the white name got more clicks, even though otherwise the resumes were identical. So you think that you have to work even harder to prove yourself. You think you have to make competition even more. It's the mindset around things. They keep us in this mindset. Me and my sister were talking about this the other day, that they keep us in this powerless, you have no control, working in this system, working hard over productivity mindset, thinking that normalizing this, thinking that this is the way it's supposed to be. So it's normalized so you don't go seeking anything else. And that keeps them in business. That keeps them employed. Look what COVID has done. This is why I said COVID needed to happen. Look what COVID has done. It's opened so many people's eyes to the way that the government just doesn't give a fuck about you. It doesn't have, it's like the oppressive mind just keeps people against each other. And when you're so against each other, you're trying to make yourself more than other people instead of just accepting yourself the way you are. You're trying to make yourself more than other people because the government is saying that these people are superior. This person gets more money. This person does this person does that, when all it does in reality is keeping you bickering. It's keeping you bickering with other parties, so you don't understand what the people in power are doing. You don't understand how they're puppeteering you. And I think people came to that realization during COVID. It's not a white, black, Asian, whatever issue. It's a governmental power issue. It's who's in power issue. It's a superiority complex. My mentor likes to say it's a bunch of traumatized 7-year-olds reenacting their trauma on the world. Because that's how old your subconscious mind is. And we're not even going to get into the subconscious mind right now because this shit goes deep. So does this topic. COVID opened up your mind to how much is possible on the online space. It's opening up people's minds to there has to be more than this. Because you see how many businesses have closed. Because people have become more capitalist conscious. It's not just that capitalism is a problem. Capital just means money. People that make money. That's people that make and spend money. People that have money. That's all capitalist and capital means. It's the way that it's manipulated that makes the system and capitalism so toxic, so detrimental. And I think people came to that realization, so they're becoming more capitalist conscious. They're becoming more consumer conscious, paying attention to what they're consuming and from who. Giving them that choice based on how they're identifying, how they're showing up for the movements, how they're interacting, how they're speaking out, how they're taking care of their employees, how they're taking care of other people. Because people in COVID, they've been struggling, they've been suffering, they've been in pain. People are losing their jobs left and right and thinking that there's nothing that they can do, right? Am I sweating? Yeah, I told y'all, this was a very triggering topic. So I was just very anxious before this because I didn't want what I was saying to come across the wrong way. But sometimes you gotta be polarizing because I need people to understand that being woke isn't enough. Because you can be woke to what's going on, but not really paying attention how it's affecting you on a micro level. And then in turn, how it's affecting you on a macro level. If you think that you have no purpose, if you think that you're powerless, you're living so unfulfilled. You're living so unhappy. And then people be like, what power? I don't have any power. What power do you speak of? Like I asked a poll on my Instagram page. People were like, what power? Or people were like, what natural gifts? What unique talents? What do you mean? Whatever you're good at. Whatever naturally comes to you, your unique perspective. My unique perspective is that I question everything. I have a question for everything. People don't like watching TV for me because I'd be like, but wait. But why that? What would happen if this, etc., etc. People don't like watching TV with me because they just don't have the same perspective as me, and that's okay. That's what makes it so cool, and connecting with other people. That's what makes the world so interesting. But people are so, I could look up so many articles. I could look up so many groups, so many people searching, how do I be 100% myself? By removing you're not oppressed. We live in an oppressive system. There's oppressive laws in place. There is somebody trying to push me down. There's somebody trying to suppress me. But when we start to suppress ourselves, then we give our power away. They have all the power because we allow them to, subconsciously, because we haven't healed those parts of ourselves. I know how triggered I get watching things. Like, I could not watch the Netflix series on what was it called? The Central Park 5. I could not watch that. I was so triggered. And I was triggered because it frustrates me. First of all, that black people get treated like that. And that means I haven't healed myself on that own trigger. Because it's triggering something from a past life. It's triggering something from my ancestral heritage, from my lineage. That's being triggered in me. And this is not far off. Like, I'm talking about the DNA is in 13 generations. My dad was being treated like that. My mom was being treated like that. My granddad was being pushed and spit on in the street. My granddad was living in a world where things said white only. They were marching with Martin Luther King. This is not far off. So those beliefs are impressioned onto us because we think that that's the only way that we're going to be accepted. Even protests and things, they're not organized in a way for us to reclaim our power. They're organized in a way for us to beg other people to accept us the way that we are. How am I going to change the fact that I'm born black? How am I going to change the fact that that's how I came down to earth? I literally can't. So what I'm going to keep just trying to be something else and somehow think that that's going to make me happy? Somehow think that that's going to bring me success is not in alignment with me. That's why it's always so miserable. People doing cubicle jobs, miserable as fuck. People going to hourly jobs, miserable as fuck. 30 years old working in the same job as teenagers because they haven't established who they are. And what's even sadder is so many people don't care. So many people don't care. Not to say that that's a problem for you not to care. But you're not even giving yourself the choice to care because you haven't even awoken to the awareness of the way that's how you've been functioning, how you've been teaching, because it's such a natural habit. Because the habit has been instilled in us since childhood, because that's how we watched our parents operate. And just because, and the racism happens on a macro level, but it affects us on a micro level. We are taught this, and we're just not paying attention to it. We're taught these oppressive energies. This oppressive energy is everywhere. This suppression mindset is everywhere. You suppressing yourself because you don't want to be judged by other people in your school. You don't want to be judged by your friends. You don't want to be judged by your family members because you're judged by society, and they say that something's wrong with you. And that trickles down into your micro little bubble. And that affects how you go about the world. And you don't question it because you think it's normal. You don't question it because nobody else questions it. People are so confused and we're like, well, why aren't you going back to school? Like, if one more person tell me to go back to school, I'm going to go back to school if I feel like it. Because what is school giving me other than the knowledge? It's not giving me the knowing. It's not giving me experience to go and do what I want to do. Even to have a job, you still have to have experience. You still have to have that knowing. But the education system fails us in a way because they don't give us that knowing. They just teach us all generalized knowledge. And what's weird is specialized knowledge, specialized knowing, having unique talents, unique outlooks, unique perspectives is what makes people wealthy. And that's why they don't teach it. That's why we weren't allowed to have an education. That's why we weren't allowed to learn how to read and write and be exposed to different things as slaves, or even in the Jim Crow era and having no schools. Post Jim Crow era, even now, black schools in minority areas get terrible funding and are taught completely different things for that exact reason. Because the more you know, the more you can grow. You can keep growing when you know and know and know more. Know from a place of experience, from a place of doing, honing in and cultivating your unique talents and expressions. But you don't do that because you feel like you have to prove yourself. You have to conform to their way of thinking, conform or go or reject their way of thinking, because that's the only way you're going to get to where you want to go. Even on the online space, a lot of people feel like they have to look a certain way, dress a certain way, talk a certain way, neglect a certain amount of topics because they don't want to trigger people and don't want to get judged, don't want to get criticized, don't want to get rejected, don't want to get abandoned, don't want to get ridiculed for being too different and out there and weird. But then people love the people that are so brave to be out there and weird and being themselves authentically. Instead of trying to prove yourself, just be yourself. Accept yourself. Internalized racism comes from this subconscious place of trying to be rewarded for conforming to standards that make you successful, like having proper language, talking a specific way. And even though it's crazy because people trying to do so much black vernacular English and making it comical in a sense, I guess, but changing the way you speak, changing the way you interact, changing the way you engage just to meet the white standard or the superior standard of how you should be, how you should act, how you should hold yourself. It's normalized for white people to have wealth, but when black people have it, it shouldn't be, what's that thing called? Showed out. That's bragging. I'm gonna talk about Blackish again because there was an episode where he had a nanny and the nanny was talking about how she could barely pay her rent. She got whatever. Who cares? She talking about how much she was struggling financially. And it made him uncomfortable because he was so successful and he so was not struggling. So now he's suffering from some white guilt because that's what white people do. White people have that much money. White people go and buy shoes every week because they feel like it. That's not even what wealthy people do. They don't even spend their time on that, to be honest. So where did we get that idealized perception? Because that's how society normalized it. So black people would just be like, oh yeah, you're right. We don't get money. It's too hard for us to do that anyway. We got to worry about surviving. We got to worry about surviving right now. Oh, what was that movie when the 4 girls were robbing the banks? If you know the movie I'm talking about, please drop it in the comments. But Cleo was saying that she don't even know where she wants to be in 5 years because she's just trying to make it to tomorrow. And when I say I think that summed up the black community perfectly, or thank you. Wow. Huh. Thank you. Set it off. That was going to bother me. I was going to have to go Google that. But set it off. And just seeing how they thought that was their only option, that was their only choice, because that's how society portrays you. That's how society tells you it is. It's entirely too normalized and nobody questions it. That's an oppressive energy because you're suppressing the fact that you don't even want that. You're suppressing the fact that you think that shit is miserable. Nobody wants to live like that, but you suppress those ideas because you think that you're the only one feeling it. You think that you're crazy because that's just how it is. Who are you to change society? Who are you to tell me that it's different? I'm me, and I don't think that it's normal. And I think that it's okay to question that. It's not, this goes to people, if you don't believe me, this goes to such a micro level internally because it goes to your thing of trying to prove yourself. Let's talk about the competition between women, okay? Competition, never feeling like you're good enough, feeling like you always have to one-up somebody, feeling like you're trapped, feeling like you have to people please in order to be accepted, that your worth is directly determined by how much you're doing for somebody else, whether that's a job, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a friendship, whether that's family, giving things away to people for free, draining your energy. When was it decided that doing more for other people and the opinions of others mattered more than your own? Self-care is important, and who are we to say to give all of our energy away, giving all of our power, because that is energy. Even if you look at electronics, technology, you have to plug it into a power source to charge it up. Our power source is our energy, and we have to charge ourselves continuously. How do you do that? Through self-care, through self-love, through connecting with yourself. And you keep suppressing that need because you're trying to do things for other people and prove that worth, prove that value to people who don't really care in the first place because they're still trying to prove their value, prove their worth. That people-pleasing mindset, that yes, massa mindset, it comes full circle. It comes fully back around. Like even black women with the witch wound, I have that heavily. I get triggered very easily from telling people that I was using my intuitive gifts because I was a very intuitive child. And at some point, it just got blocked because I was just being told that there was something wrong with it, that's not normal, yada, 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 blase, blah. And that's that witch wound. People were getting burned alive before slavery even happened. So you see how far back this can go? I've done past life regressions and seen myself in past life encountering countless things that I need to heal from. Once you come to that awareness, that's what unlocks, that's when it becomes, you start to notice it more. The problem is not that we have this going on. The problem is not that we're suffering. The problem is not that we're dealing with this on a day-to-day basis. The problem and the difficulty and the toxicity comes in when you have no awareness of it. So you have no choice in the matter. That is not living freely. That is not free will. If you're living on the basis and analysis of how you should live based on somebody else's ideas and projections, that's not living freely. You're living in a holographic society of their own will, of their own consciousness. That has nothing to do with you. That has nothing to do with you. It does not connect or reside with you. Oh, I'm out of breath. So when you awaken to this, and I challenge you, or I invite you to think about how you come to money, how you think about money, how you think about getting to success. How do you think you can get to that money and that success? Because I can tell you right now, trading your time for money is not going to bring you wealth. And I'm sorry to say, but it was confirmed when I was listening to a podcast, and Makosi, she is at the Royal Shaman here on Instagram, but she said, and I have been saying this for a while, I just sometimes see, this is how the intuition gets you, and this is how people get you, because they think that when you're talking about this stuff, or being psychic or being very intuitive, you're making things up. So sometimes I think I'm making stuff up, and then I hear somebody else say it and it's confirmed. And see, even right now, trying to prove that this wasn't being made up. But your ancestors are tired of you being broke. Not even being broke in terms of money, being broke in terms of happiness, joy, fulfillment, just being in this very low vibrational state. They're tired of you being unhealthy, tired of going through the same cycles, having to learn the same lessons. They're tired of you being a broken record. They're tired of us being a broken record. Our ancestors are tired. Your spirit guides are tired of you being a broken record, of you going through the same things over and over and over again and not learning, and ignoring and avoiding and deflecting and neglecting yourself and suppressing all of these urges, suppressing your truest nature, suppressing your greatest purpose, your dharma, what you're here for. That's the only reason you're here for. Fulfillment and happiness is your birthright. Learning these lessons, growing, evolution is your birthright. It's literally a law of the universe. The universe has created these universal laws to put us in the correct boundaries, to put us in the correct lane, to get us to where we want to get us to where we want to be, and learn the lessons that we were supposed to learn in the first place. Oh my goodness. And the fact that we keep ignoring that is the reason why we keep having all of these generational curses, keep having mental illnesses, keep having bodily diseases, keep having broken homes. Do you know that when I was giving birth both times, the nurse had the audacity to ask me if I had anybody that was going to be there with me, if the child father was going to be there. Duh, he's right here. This is the child's father. And they kept saying my boyfriend, and I had to correct people multiple times and be like, that's my husband, because people have the stereotype of that same generational pattern that Black people just have baby daddies and baby mamas and don't get married and have relationships. Having these same patterns. Life does not have to be this hard. Hard is what we make it. Hard is because we keep repeating the same patterns. If we keep repeating the same patterns, they're going to get louder and louder and louder. Just like if you imagine you have a child and you have to tell them to do something over and over again, over and again. You're going to get louder every time you have to keep repeating yourself. You're going to be like, I told you not to do that. No. And the lesson keeps getting louder and louder. That's how the universe is with patterns that we keep repeating. It keeps getting more and more prevalent because we keep not learning the lesson. We should be wealthy in abundance, prosperity, happiness, fulfillment, connection, intimacy, All of these things we should and do deserve. It is our birthright to be happy and fulfilled. The only thing stopping us is our mindset and our heart and how we interact and show up in the world, how we embody that natural energetic state and show up is the personification of our energetic state, our natural state of being. But we can't do that until we heal the things that are in our lineage. We can't do that until we heal the past things and traumas that we haven't paid attention to and have been neglecting and deflecting. You have to teach our children this. You don't want to have the same lineage thing happening over and over again. So I challenge you to think about money, how you come and show up to money, how you think about family, how you think about society and how it should be run. Just start questioning little things and bring things to your awareness. Because when you bring it to your awareness, you can start to notice it more, start to connect the dots, start to connect the patterns and bring it full circle. Because you can only heal and release what's in your direct awareness, what's in your consciousness. You can't heal or release anything that's being pushed down and suppressed and in your unconscious because you don't know it's there. Your consciousness is literally only 5%. Your active brain, your mind, the brain that is listening to me right now, the cerebral cortex, that's only 5%. Everything else lives in the 95%, which is the undersurface of the mind. I think that is the disconnect from ourselves, and why it's so hard to figure out who we are and what we're here to do, because people in society and this oppressive nature keeps telling us why it's not possible. And I even invite you to see and think about and brainstorm what you believe to be possible for you. What is possible for you? What do you believe to be possible for you? And keep going until it terrifies you, because the more scared you get, the more triggered you are, the more in alignment you are. Because that's triggering your belief system, something to change. If it's triggering you, that means it's something that you do not like. It's something that is not in alignment with you. It's something that makes you feel uneasy. It's something that's unresolved if it's triggering you. Your triggers do not have to stay. Triggers are not something that you have to deal with. Triggers are not something you have to learn to cope with. Triggers are there to teach you a lesson. They're there to teach you your boundaries. They're there to help you overcome. So when you pay attention to how you show up, to this energy of what you should be doing or how you should be acting, and see how that comes up for you, and see how you would prefer to be acting. What is your ideal state? I just came up with this idea earlier when I was listening. You know, I love my podcasts, okay? I was listening to it and I was just like, when I promoted myself to change, I was always frustrated, because politics, sociology, psychology, philosophy, those are all I love it. And it used to really frustrate me that nobody cared about their own well-being enough to research this, to look into this, to question it. If nobody cared enough to look into politics to change that. And it just really, really frustrated me. So I always knew that the two were connected. My purpose was connected to trying to heal that oppressive energies, heal that suppressive mindset that you don't care because you think it doesn't affect you. But if you have no choice, you have no voice. If you think that it's not affecting you, so you're silencing your voice, then you're not having a choice in the matter in the first place. Do you see how differently the election turned out this time versus the last time? Trump only won because people silenced their voice because they thought it didn't matter. That is oppression. All of these things in place to get for the voter suppression and things like that, to prevent people from voting. It was only in place because they know how powerful collective voice are. They know the compound effect of that. So they want you to think that you don't have a choice. They want you to think that you don't have a voice, but you do. That voice gives you that choice. That choice gives you freedom. Having a voice and having a choice brings you the freedom that you're seeking, brings you the fulfillment that you need, that you crave. I was talking about what I discovered earlier is that I was in the state of being an exploited woman. The state of just letting myself really take in abuse, no matter how, and I just brushed it off. Things come to the surface all the time, and I'm like, why did I accept that? Why did I take that, no matter how mundane or minute it was? You just brush it off. Having to be that woman that was always so strong, that woman that they could always call on, people pleasing, always trying to prove myself, was the one showing up to work on her days off, working 12-hour shifts, taking doubles while I was pregnant at that, exploiting myself to my friends, thinking that I had to do this, had to do that, being in this trapped mindset, exploiting myself to my own emotions, being consumed and controlled by them. And what really snapped me into gear was figuring out that who I wanted to be. I wanted to be empowered. I wanted to be embodied by my full self. I wanted to be confident, living confidently, going after my dreams, chasing a life I love, having the choice to pursue freedom, financial abundance, emotional abundance, fulfillment, happiness, joy, adventure, spontaneity, whatever, however you say it, spontaneous, traveling, learning from different cultures, experiencing life to the full extent that I can while I'm in this human experience. So I had to ask myself at that moment, that third time, I went through like 3 awakenings before I really snapped myself into full gear and took this 100% seriously, instead of trying to be toe dipping in and then still trying to go and do this what was out of alignment with me. I was like, okay, so do I want to continue to exploit myself? Do I want to be in this exploited woman state? Or do I want to empower myself? Do I want to be the person that I want my daughter to be? Am I the person and example that I want my son to marry? Whoever he marries, whoever they marry. Am I an example of that? Am I an example of how I want them to show up? Am I an example of how I want the world to go? Because you cannot change the world until you change yourself. I've had that quote written in I used to keep a diary of quotes. I've had that, and I still have that diary. I have that quote written in there at least 7 times, and I've had that since 7th grade. It's one of the first quotes that's in there. Be who you needed when you were younger is the first one. And you cannot change the world unless you change yourself. So I know so many people want to help others. So many people want to heal the world and raise the vibration of the planet. So many people want to be light workers, entrepreneurs, changing the way they look, making a life better for the next generation, for their children, for their lineage. But in order to do that, you cannot change the external. You have to change the internal. And if nothing changes internally, nothing changes. You have to change on an identity level. You have to embody the change that you want to see. I've been talking for so long. So I have a very open throat chakra. That's my connection. That's my unique vehicle, is my words. So sometimes when I'm just channeling, I don't know. I don't even remember half the stuff I said in this live. I don't remember half the things that I've said. But I want to recap. Just because on what I do remember. You are not a racist. You are not a bad person. You are not any of these negative meanings or attachments just because you have healing to do. You are not crazy because you have healing to do. Everybody has healing to do. That's why we live in such an insane, unbalanced, unharmonious planet, because we have a bunch of traumatized people reenacting their trauma on other people. Hurt people. Misery loves company. So if you're miserable, you're going to try to make other people miserable. That gossip and shit, talking about other people, all of those things is a suppressive energy, because you're trying to suppress the internal things going on with you. That's a distraction. People that are constantly talking about other people are distracting themselves from their own life. I learned that from myself, because I was distracting the fuck out of myself constantly. Weed, drugs, partying, alcohol, sex, all of this stuff. Binge watching television, distraction. Doing stuff that don't align with me, distraction. School, distraction. I had been told by 5 different people, 5 different outlets, what my path was. Not necessarily my purpose, my unique vehicle, or whatever, but my path. I've always been into spirituality. I've always been into philosophy, psychology, numerology. Did I say philosophy? Sociology. Things that talk about how the brain, mind, and body works. I've always been into that. Always been into looking beyond the surface. Always. People be like, that's the Aquarius in you. It is. It very well is. But that's what comes naturally to me. And do you know how long I suppressed that? Because people thought that those types of things were nutty bananas. Too woo-woo. That's some woo-woo stuff. That's that witchcraft. That's that evil. That's that Satanism. And obviously, I didn't want to go to hell. I didn't want to be met by Satan. But then I had to realize those beliefs weren't mine. I didn't establish that. I didn't create that from my own belief system. That came from somebody else implanting their beliefs in me. And obviously, since I'm a child, a teenager, whatever, wanted to be loved, wanted to be accepted, wanted to be taken care of, I'm obviously going to listen to the people that have been here for the longest period of time, and the ones that are taking care of me, the ones that are supposed to be loving me, the ones that are supposed to be accepting me, the ones that are supposed to be there for me unconditionally. I kept seeing myself trying to make sure that I was in a place and doing what they wanted me to do, doing what they deemed acceptable, so that I would be in that place of acceptance, so I would be receiving that love. And I still didn't, because I still couldn't do it all the way. I still couldn't fully conform to that mind and thinking. I still questioned everything and got on people's nerves. I still busted out a full choreography routine in Walgreens and had people walk away from me, still being judged for being different and weird, but just being judged in a watered down way that was making me feel miserable and still making me feel drained. I've been talking for so long, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to pause there. But got distracted because my phone was about to die. But this was just the tip of the iceberg. This goes so deep. There's so many layers to this topic, but I just really wanted to scratch the surface today. I have a free trainer webinar coming up, just talking more about this embodiment, talking about more about what's holding you back, talking about more about money mindset. So can't wait to see you there. Please save your seat using the link in my bio. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 4 of the 5 days of awakening.